The phone rang in the afternoon. That alone was unusual. Most days the phone stayed quiet. Messages came and went silently. Notifications appeared without urgency. I had learned to live inside that calm. So when the sound filled the room, sharp and sudden, I paused. I did not rush to answer. I let it ring once more. I was sitting at the table, a cup of tea cooling slowly beside me. My body was comfortable. My back was supported. Nothing in me felt alarmed. Still, I knew this sound. I stood carefully and walked toward the phone. The screen lit up, a name I had not seen in some time. I hesitated, not because I did not want to answer, because I wanted to answer honestly. When I picked up, my voice surprised me. It was steady. "Hello?" I said. There was a pause on the other end. Then, "Hi, Mom." The word landed gently, not heavily, just there. We exchanged the familiar questions. How are you? How have you been? The weather. Nothing new, nothing urgent, and yet I could hear something beneath the words, a carefulness. "I was thinking about you," my daughter said. Not I was worried, not I should have called sooner, just thinking. "That's kind," I replied, and I meant it. She spoke about her day, about work, about errands and small interruptions. I listened without interruption, noticing how easily my attention stayed with her. I did not feel pulled away from myself. I felt present. At one point she paused. "I don't want to bother you," she said, "but I wanted to check in." The word bother caught my attention. I thought about all the years I had worked to be unbothersome, to be easy, to be fine. "You're not bothering me," I said. I said it slowly. I wanted it to sound true. She exhaled. I could hear it. We did not talk long. There was no need. Before hanging up, she said, "Maybe I could come by sometime, if that's okay." The question lingered between us, not heavy, just open. "I'd like that," I said, and this time there was no hesitation. After the call ended, I stood where I was for a moment longer. I noticed how my body felt, steady, supported, still my own. I returned to the table and sat down. The tea had cooled. I drank it anyway. I did not think about logistics. I did not imagine conversations. I did not plan. I let the invitation exist without urgency. Later, when Daniel stopped by, I did not mention the call right away. We talked about ordinary things, but something in me had shifted. Not moved, shifted. That evening, as I prepared dinner, I realized something quietly important. Receiving a call did not undo my independence. It did not take anything from me. It added a layer. Before bed, I stood in the hallway again, the familiar pause, the familiar breath. The question returned in a new form. What did today bring to me? The answer felt simple. Connection, not demanded, not owed, just offered. I turned off the light. Sleep came easily. That night, I did not dream of voices or visits. I dreamed of doors opening without force. After the call, the house felt different. Not louder, not fuller, just aware. I did not begin preparing right away. That was the first thing I noticed. There was no urgency pressing against me, no list forming in my head, no sudden need to rearrange my life to make space for something that had not yet arrived. I let the day continue as it was. In the morning, I opened the curtains a little wider than usual. The light entered slowly, spreading across the floor in soft shapes. I watched it for a moment before moving on. There was time. As I moved through the house, I became aware of small choices. Which chair felt easiest to sit in, which mug fit my hand best, where my body preferred to pause. These details felt connected somehow, as if preparing did not mean changing everything. It meant noticing what already worked. I stood in the living room and looked around. Nothing felt unfinished. Nothing demanded attention. And yet I found myself straightening a pillow, not because it was crooked, because I wanted the room to feel ready. Later, I opened the refrigerator and considered what I might make. Not a meal meant to impress, something familiar, something forgiving. I made a note on a small piece of paper and placed it on the counter. I did not pen it up. I did not commit to it. It was enough to acknowledge the thought. In the afternoon, I sat with my notebook. I did not write about my daughter. I wrote about space, about how it felt to allow someone back into it without clearing everything else away. The words came easily. They did not rush me. At some point, I realized I was smiling, not because I felt excited, because I felt capable. When Daniel came by later that day, he noticed the open curtains. "More light," he said. "Yes," I replied. "I think I like it this way." He nodded. That was all. We talked about small things. He did not ask about the call. I did not offer it. There was no secrecy in that, only pacing. After he left, I returned to the kitchen and prepared dinner. I sat while chopping. I paused when my back asked me to. I worked in stages. The food came together slowly. It tasted right. That evening, I thought about the visit that might happen, not as an event, as a presence. I wondered what it would feel like to share the quiet again, not to fill it, to let it remain. Before bed, I stood in the hallway, the familiar place, the familiar pause. The question waited. What do I need to prepare for? The answer surprised me. Nothing. I did not need to become someone else. I did not need to rearrange my life. I did not need to make room by erasing myself. I turned off the light and lay down. Sleep came gently. That night, I dreamed of setting an extra cup on the table, not to serve, to share. The day of the visit arrived quietly. No announcement, no sense of occasion, just another morning that happened to carry something extra. I woke at my usual time. My body responded the way it had learned to, slowly, cooperatively. I did not ask more of it than it was willing to give. That felt important. I set the table with 2 cups, not 3. I noticed that choice as I made it. It was not an exclusion, it was accuracy. When the doorbell rang, I did not rush. I finished what I was doing, then I went. My daughter stood on the porch, holding her bag with both hands, as if unsure where to place it. She smiled when she saw me, not the wide smile of relief, something smaller, something careful. "Hi, Mom," she said. "Hi," I replied. We stood there for a moment, longer than necessary. Then she stepped inside. The house accepted her easily. She looked around, noticing the light, the chair near the counter, the quiet order of things. "You've changed the place," she said. "Only a little," I replied. She nodded, as if she understood what that meant. We sat at the table. I poured tea. She talked. I listened. The roles felt familiar, but not fixed. At one point, she reached for something and stopped herself. "Is this okay?" she asked. It surprised me, not the question, the pause. "Yes," I said, "it's fine." I meant the object and something else. We talked about her life, her work, her worries. I noticed how often she checked my face as she spoke, searching for signs of strain or fatigue. I let my expression remain neutral, present. "I don't want to tire you," she said at one point. The sentence landed softly. I felt it, but I did not brace against it. "You're not," I replied. "If I need to rest, I will." I said it calmly, without apology. She looked at me then, really looked. Something in her shoulders eased. We moved into the living room. She offered to carry things. I declined some offers, accepted others. The balance surprised both of us. At one point, she stood too quickly and knocked her knee against the table. We laughed. The sound felt unfamiliar and welcome. Later, when she stood to leave, she hesitated. "Can I come again?" she asked. Not, "Should I?" Not, "Do you need me to?" Just, "Can I?" "Yes," I said. After she left, I sat alone for a moment. I did not feel drained. I did not feel triumphant. I felt intact. I realized then that I had not slipped back into an old version of myself, the one who served, the one who absorbed, the one who held everything quietly so others could move freely. I had remained where I was, and still someone had come close. That evening, I stood in the hallway again, the familiar pause, the familiar breath. The question returned. What did I keep today? The answer was clear. Myself. I turned off the light. Sleep came easily that night. That night, I dreamed of a table with space around it, not crowded, not empty, just right. After she left, the house returned to its quiet. Not abruptly, not with relief, just naturally. I stood by the door for a moment, longer than usual, listening to the sound of her steps fade down the porch. I noticed how my body felt as the space shifted back to one person. Not emptied, restored. I went into the kitchen and rinsed the cups, 2 of them. I dried them carefully and placed them back on the shelf. I did not leave one out in anticipation. I did not feel the need to mark the visit in any visible way. The memory was already settled where it belonged. In the afternoon, I sat with my notebook again. I did not write about the visit in detail. I wrote one sentence. She came, I stayed. That felt complete. I realized then how often I used to confuse closeness with disappearance, how many times I had allowed myself to become smaller so others could feel more comfortable in my presence. This time, something had been different. I had not performed. I had not prepared myself to be agreeable. I had simply been there. Later, as the light shifted through the living room, I replayed the moments that stayed with me. Her pause before touching something, her question instead of assumption, the way she looked at me when I said I would rest if I needed to. These were not gestures of worry, they were gestures of respect. I understood then that the visit had not been about reconnecting, it had been about recalibrating, finding the distance where love could exist without strain. As evening approached, I prepared dinner, the same simple meal I had made the night before. I ate slowly, noticing how my body responded to the day. There was no heaviness, no quiet ache of endurance, just the ordinary tiredness that comes from being present. After dinner, I washed the dishes and left them to dry. I turned off the kitchen light and moved through the house, noticing how familiar everything felt. Not unchanged, integrated. Before bed, I stood in the hallway again, the familiar pause, the familiar breath. The question came one last time. What will I carry forward from this? The answer arrived without effort. I will carry the knowledge that connection does not require sacrifice, that I can welcome someone without stepping aside, that I can be held in someone's concern without being contained by it. I turned off the light and lay down. My body settled easily. Sleep came without negotiation. That night, I dreamed of a path that widened without losing its shape. I walked it at my own pace. Others walked beside me. No one hurried. No one lagged behind. When morning came, the dream stayed with me, not as an image, as a feeling. I stood and began the day. Nothing needed to be decided. Nothing needed to be explained. I knew what I would keep.